Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services. Discover passive property wealth strategies in today's session with Amy Sylvis. Amy Sylvis is the founder and principal of Sylvis Capital, a real estate firm that offers commercial real estate investment opportunities to investors seeking to generate strong returns without the day-to-day hassles of operating real estate. With a foundation built upon rigorous analysis, risk assessment, and a deep appreciation for emerging trends, Sylvis Capital has consistently identified opportunities that deliver exceptional returns for investors. Sylvis Capital currently has 1,841 apartment units, 208,000 square feet of industrial space, and 330 million worth of assets under management. Amy is the host of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast, a weekly podcast that explores the multifaceted aspects of abundance, from financial freedom to relationships and philanthropy, through expert interviews and personal reflections. It aims to inspire listeners to redefine success, embrace purposeful living, and achieve abundance on their own terms. The first question is, what's the secret to your success?
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lily. I really appreciate it. I think there are two secrets, if I can be so bold. The first is surrounding myself with incredible people. I am truly just the sum of all the people who have poured into me. So making sure that I'm around people who are already where I'm looking to go, who have my best interests at heart, who have the same values. So creating a community. And then, of course, having gratitude. I think we're often taught by our culture to focus on lack and what we don't have, but really appreciating what I do have is a key to really changing my brain and outlook and giving me space to grow from what I already have.
Thank you. What's your blueprint to becoming an awakened titan, and how did that lead onto building passive property wealth?
I really think it is constantly learning. I think once I myself or anyone stops learning, stops growing, and just kind of rests, I think just part of us dies. So realizing that I'll never know it all, the journey to education and becoming a better person, whether personally, professionally, spiritually, all of these things, it just never stops. So part of that journey was realizing that I don't have to trade my time for income. I was raised in a middle-class household. My parents, worked all of their lives, which is amazing. But if I wasn't always on this never-ending journey to learn, I would have never stumbled upon that purple book I think a lot of people are familiar with called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that really opened my eyes to this concept of hands-off income.
Thank you. Tell us about your journey to how you became an awakened titan, and how did you start building this passive property wealth empire?
Yes. So the first step really was education, as I mentioned, not to be redundant, but we really have to learn and explore and meet the people who are already where we want to be. And then it's practice, practice, practice. So I decided to invest alongside people who were already working in and owning massive multifamily and commercial real estate. So I could learn through their mistakes. I could learn best practices before I decided to go off on my own, apply my education, apply my experience, and help other people generate passive income on that journey.
Thank you. Tell us about the blueprint of how other entrepreneurs can start going on this journey of building passive property wealth as well.
Yes. So there are so many incredible resources out there. Books are just one. There are podcasts just like yours, countless others of people telling their story. But the other part is you've got to get your skin in the game. So even if it's investing just a tiny bit of money, it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike through just reading a book. You have to get out there and get on that bike. And even if it's with training wheels, even if it's just for a short distance, getting in the game, there's so much you learn by doing. So educate yourself, network with other people, and then take action, even if it's small and calculated.
Thank you. Tell us exactly how it works in terms of working with you to build passive property wealth.
Yes. So I buy large commercial real estate properties and invite folks to invest alongside of me. I do this full time, so I have access because of my experience and reputation to deals that the general public doesn't have access to. Just last week, I bought a 144 unit multifamily property in Arlington, Texas. I almost said Houston, Arlington, Texas, that was direct to seller. And the only reason the seller sold it to us was because we've purchased from them before. No one else got access. So our investors can take their capital and invest as limited partners alongside of us. And we use our expertise to run the property, generate the profits and the passive income, while our investors just sit back, relax, and collect the paychecks without doing any of the work.
Thank you. What expected returns are there for entrepreneurs wishing to invest with your company?
I have to be a little bit careful. Candidly, we are heavily regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So I would invite folks to schedule a call with me, to reach out to us. We always follow the rules that we're governed by. So we want to make sure, even when no one's looking, that we do the right thing by the law and ethically, but happy always to make time to explore the potential benefits, but also the risks with folks. We like to be fully transparent about both sides of the investment.
Thank you. How long does it typically take to get a return on the investment entrepreneurs would make?
Yes. So typically we start giving distributions to our investors between 9 to 12 months after the property is purchased. And we typically hold the property for 5 years. So the returns are really divided into quarterly distributions. And then of course, when we sell the property, there's that appreciation upon sale. So again, first 9 to 12 months, those distributions should start coming. And then after 5 years, when we sell the property, there will also be a chunk of income we project, we hope, that will come with the property.
Thank you. Are there any specific countries and specific locations where you tend to invest?
Yes. So we focus on the United States. The US, for a whole host of reasons, subsidizes debt for commercial real estate, specifically multifamily or apartment buildings, which is what we do. So if anyone understands leverage and the power of leverage, it can be fantastic if you know how to manage it. For some people, it can be risky if they don't have that experience. But since we do, we like to take advantage of the fact that the United States government subsidizes the debt, gives us a lower interest rate, so we can essentially borrow money at a lower rate. And within the United States, we do extensive market research monthly in order to identify locations where we think are favorable to invest. Our last property was in Dallas, Texas. We love that market. We're also in northern Alabama, Indiana, Kentucky, Georgia, and Tennessee.
Thank you. What steps are you taking to ensure that the ROI gets met? And what are the potential risks that entrepreneurs tend to face when investing in this type of property investment?
Yes, I love that you bring up risks. So I'm going to start there, and then we can talk about how we mitigate those risks. Because to your point, this is not a risk-free investment. Folks could lose all of their money. Now, is that common? No, but can it happen? Yes. And so we always want to make sure folks understand that they'll still be in an okay position personally if, God forbid, they lose all of their investment. So that is the risk. You could lose 100%. How do we mitigate that? We start off first by choosing the right market. And we just talked about market research. Let's take a city like Dallas, Texas, where there is a diverse economic base, meaning there isn't just one industry that employs our renters who are paying us rent. Countless industry. Unemployment is low. There are lots of new jobs coming into the area, lots of net migration. All of this reduces risk, doesn't make it zero, but reduces the risk of the investment because our residents are our customers, right? They're the ones that pay our bills. Secondarily, we also buy, I mentioned buying direct to seller. We make sure we purchase at a great purchase price, often below what most other people would get in the market, because that means on day one, we've created equity because we're buying below market. Now, this doesn't, again, totally eliminate all risk, but it helps to mitigate it, another layer of risk. And then finally, the strategy of the business plan. So how are we underwriting? What are our financial projections? What do we plan to do to the apartments to make them worth more? So very often we do a value add strategy where Again, I'll use this last property that we purchased as an example. 1980s build. Most of the units hadn't been renovated in 40 plus years. So by simply bringing and doing some nice renovations, being able to push the rent, that increases the distributions we can give to our investors and then also increases the value to the property. So slow, methodical, but thorough research also helps us mitigate risk.
Thank you. What is the typical investment that investors should put in as a minimum in order to be able to collaborate on your project?
Sure. So for us, typically it's anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000. We are, again, highly regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US. We can only have a certain number of investors oftentimes. So because we purchase 20, 25, $30 million projects, this is how the math typically ends up. But I do like to remind American investors that there are ways that they can utilize their previous employers' 401ks or self-directed IRAs to invest alongside of us as well, which is really exciting. Most people don't know that that's an option.
Thank you. For entrepreneurs who wish to source high value properties themselves, and I'm talking buildings, how can they avoid getting gazumped when they get their hands on a direct to seller deal like yours?
Yes, I think it's all about research, right? It's gaining that experience. So whether you have a mentor who's done this before, who looks over your shoulder and guides you and helps you see, what the stumbling blocks can be, making sure you do extensive due diligence, looking at the financials, even going on the property, doing inspections, all of these things. Often the lender requires this anyway. But yeah, just not being afraid to get your hands dirty, really dig in, do research, and coupling that with partnering with someone who has the experience and the knowledge that you can trust, that can help verify your due diligence and your research will go very, very far to protecting people.
Thank you. What do you use in order to potentially reduce running cost of the property and also to increase revenue aside from what you've already mentioned?
Yes. Well, one of the beautiful things about real estate investing, especially with apartments, is the happier our residents are, the more money we make. So we're all on the same side of the table. Operating an apartment building means that our highest expense is typically what we call turnover cost. And that's when someone leaves the apartment and decides to rent somewhere else. So if we treat our residents well, do the repairs and maintenance as they request, create a great community, make them feel like they're not just a number on our rent roll, but they're actual human beings that we care deeply about, they're more likely to stay. And that reduces our costs. So that's one of our secret sauces, is having property management, the people that are on site, that are dealing with the residents on a day-to-day basis, have our same values, and we incentivize them to be great people to our residents, and that helps reduce the cost.
Thank you. What would you say is the key differentiator between your company and other companies that potentially do a similar thing?
Yes. I alluded to this earlier, but we care deeply about our residents. And I'm very transparent about investors about this. We may not give you the most high return on your investment. I'm not saying we've got a low return, but we're not going to squeeze every single solitary penny out of every resident if it means we don't treat them well. And I'll tell you a story. I had an elderly woman at a property in Tennessee who got COVID, and she needed a caretaker to take care of her while she was in the hospital. And when she was discharged, she was still very sickly. The caretaker took her debit card, went to the pharmacy to pick up some medication, quote unquote, and drained her entire bank account, which means that the resident didn't have the money to pay rent to us for several months. We had every right under Tennessee law to evict this elderly woman who had just been through a very serious illness and who was still ill. We did not evict her. In fact, we as the owners, not our investors, as the owners, paid the rent for her for several months while she got back on her feet. Did this have a massive impact on the revenue and the return on investment for our investors? No, not at all. But we knew that we did the right thing by somebody who fell on hard times, and that's our privilege as investors. So we care deeply. I don't say this to pat myself on the back, but we have the opportunity as investors to not just make money, but do it in a way that cares about people, that creates community, that shows love. And we believe we can still do that by making great returns. And we've proven that time and time again.
Thank you. Can you share with us the average return on investment, like between and like the lower and the upper levels, or you're not allowed?
I'm so sorry. I can't. I don't mean to be elusive. I just, the Securities and Exchange Commission, because we sometimes take non-accredited investors, and that means that we're not allowed to advertise in any way, shape, or form what those returns are. So please forgive me. I don't mean to be difficult.
Yes. Okay. I understand. So what would you say were three of your top most exciting projects that you've worked on that you're so proud of in terms of the return, or any success story that you've had that will give entrepreneurs an idea of how this has worked in the past and may or may not work in the future?
Yes. Well, I mentioned, our business plan is to take some of these old kind of tired apartment buildings and renovate them. Well, if you've heard of Huntsville, Alabama, it's a really fascinating area of Alabama. I'm from California. I talk to people about Alabama and they go, what in the world could be available there? It has one of the highest levels of PhD and master's degree holders in all of the United States. NASA is there. The FBI is there. Manufacturing. Really fascinating area of the United States. But that being said, we bought about 50 miles outside of Huntsville, Alabama, in an area called Decatur, where we bought two properties, and residents and everyone in the area, because of the job influx, were making more money. But they had more tired and outdated apartment units, and they were so eager to have nicer living spaces. So the owner that we bought these two properties from had owned the properties for decades, didn't want to deal with renovating, he was making good money as it was. So when we took over, the residents were so excited to see the renovations. They could afford to and were eager to pay more money to have nicer units. So I know for some people, they think of, I'm going to buy something and the residents will have nowhere else to go or no other choice. I'm just going to jack up the rent and there's nothing they can do and I'm going to make money. What I find fun is figuring out what people want and being able to deliver it to them so that instead of them begrudgingly handing over more money on a month-to-month basis, they're thrilled because we're giving them beautiful countertops, kitchens, flooring, bathrooms, all of those things. It really makes my heart happy. And our residents let us know how happy they are. So just one example of why I'm just so overjoyed to be in this industry.
Thank you. Tell us about perhaps your first project that you worked on, and how did that turn out, and how did that spur you on to kind of create this property empire?
Yes. My first property was tough. I have no problem admitting that. It was what we call in the industry a scatter site. So I like to buy apartment buildings all under one roof. This was 58 units in kind of duplexes and triplexes scattered around a city in Tennessee. The first thing I learned from that project was lenders don't necessarily like scatter site properties. Oops. So it took a lot longer to close the deal and it almost didn't close, but it really whet my palate for, oh my gosh, okay, I've learned something. What else can I learn? The other thing, and I'll tell you another story, is when we closed on the property, the very next day, our property management company called us and said, did you know there's a woman in a wheelchair in a second-story unit, and we don't have elevators. So she's scooting down the stairs on her tush. I couldn't believe it. How awful that the previous owner put a disabled person without access to have to live in this humiliating circumstance. So our ability as owners to call this resident and say, hey, we're going to relocate you to another unit or a hotel, whatever you need to give you the dignity, the mobility, and the comfort that you need to live a good life. It was so exciting and empowering that we had that privilege. Was it expensive? Yes. Did we feel bad for her? Yes. Was it tough to kind of get all this settled? Yes. But in addition to getting great returns on this property, it really got me excited about continuing to build my empire because I wanted to know who else I could help. Who else could I care for? And what other investors could I serve to help them build their investment portfolio? So many wins, and it really got me excited to continue.
Thank you. How does this opportunity for property investment compare versus the same opportunity where the entrepreneur would have to do the entire work himself?
Yes. I actually get that question a lot from my investors. And for me, it really depends on your goals because some people like the control. Some people want to be involved. Some people have the time. So I say, great. What I do isn't for everybody. And if people have the desire, the control, the patience, all of that to do it, by all means. Other people are very successful in their regular job. They have families, they have hobbies, and they don't necessarily want to learn how to do all this on their own. So investing alongside somebody who's done this for a long time, who has the proven, results and all of that might be for them. So again, there is no right or wrong. It's really, what are your goals? Start from there, and then you can decide your path.
Thank you. Is there a maximum investment that investors need to put down as well because of the regulations?
Good question. The maximum investment really depends upon the lender. Because if you're a certain percentage owner, and of course, this depends on the purchase price of the property. If you're a certain percentage owner of the property, according to the lender, they're going to need to underwrite you, which means they look at your personal financial statement and then you become personally liable. So it varies depending upon the project. But for some people, they don't want to be on the loan. They don't want to be underwritten. So they want to come in under that. But we receive $1 million, $2 million checks all of the time. So yeah, depending upon what people are looking for, those are perfectly fine in general.
Thank you. Would you say that in general, do investors tend to put in cash or is it mortgage-based investment?
Always cash. Yes, whether it comes from their self-directed IRA or their retirement account or just cash savings, it's always cash.
Okay. And thank you. And what would you say was the most defining moment for you that enabled you to kind of start on this journey of having a property empire?
Yes. Well, I'll try to keep this short because it's kind of a long story, but I was born with a genetic illness called cystic fibrosis. And some people may have heard of it, but essentially it's a lung disease where my lungs are destroyed over time from within. And I was supposed to live to be around 8 or 9 years old when I was born in 1981. I'm 43. I don't mind saying my age. And so part of that illness is being in and out of the hospital for 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks at a time, year over year, which makes it really difficult to earn money. So by the time I was an adult and thank God got through high school and college, I had a difficult time holding down a job, which I understand because it's tough to employ somebody who's always sick and in and out of the hospital. So I was on this aggressive search to figure out, well, how am I going to be able to pay my bills? I have medical bills as an American, rent of my own, food, all of these things. How was I going to pay that if I couldn't hold down a job very well? And the concept of not having to trade my time for money just wasn't within how I was raised within the American culture. So once I figured out that I could support myself, but not have to trade my time for money, thank goodness I figured that out in my late 20s, early 30s. That was the defining moment where I thought, okay, good. I don't ever have to be worried about depending upon my family who had already sacrificed so much raising me. And I could create this empire where I could be self-sufficient. The irony is I got a miracle medication for my lungs about 5 years ago. So I'm healthy enough to trade my time for money now, but I want to bring this passive income opportunity to other people who can benefit.
Thank you. How can property investors awaken to their titanic power so they can also have the courage to go on this journey of creating their own property empire?
Oh, yes. I really think it starts off with following stories and finding other people who have done it because it can feel so overwhelming and intimidating. But I tell people, if I could do this, I didn't win the genetic lottery. I wasn't given this illness through any fault of my own. But if I can do it, oh my gosh, anyone can. It may take some time. It may take some education. It has some ups and downs, but really starting off by just believing in yourself, believing that you can do it, believing that if not you, then who? Of course you can. And just having that mindset will really set off the whole experience.
Thank you. How did you go from 1 unit to managing 1,841 units?
Yes, it's all about partnerships. So when I started, I really thought I had to do this all on my own. And then when I realized that, real estate investing is a team sport, you join with other people, you collaborate together. And not only do you mitigate risk, but you scale faster and you can use each person's strength and you build together. And we call it going further faster. So it really was, once I figured out that this isn't something for me to just do on my own, I partner with others who I vet, who I build relationships with, all of those good things. We don't just do it with anybody. That's when things really got going.
Thank you. Where did you find these amazing entrepreneurs to collaborate with? And which elements do you consider important for entrepreneurs to leverage as well? Was it being a charismatic speaker? Was it being an influencer? Was it being someone who is able to influence people? Was it having PR? Was it, did you contact the people from your previous school? Did you contact the people from your work? What was it that you feel was the thing, or maybe the series of steps that you had to take in order to build these incredible partnerships and relationships and persuade everyone to join up together for these amazing property empire?
Really great question. It was intentional networking. So going to events where I knew other people would be that are like-minded. Going, even now, I still go to virtual events 2 or 3 times a week to network and just see who's out there. But yes, in terms of evaluating, it all starts with values first. Because as I mentioned earlier, I like money. Money isn't the end all be all for me. And there's nothing wrong with money. I'm not running a nonprofit. Money is great, but I want to do it in a certain way. And not everyone is like-minded. That doesn't mean that they're bad people or, anything like that, but being very specific in my own mind of what are the type of people that I'm looking to partner with, and then being open and honest with people of, hey, this is how I operate. How do you operate? What are you looking to achieve? And finding a match there. And then once we find, values that align, then it's looking at skills. What are complementary skills? Because I don't necessarily want to partner with people who are exactly like me, right? Maybe I partner with someone who's maybe not comfortable getting on a podcast with you, but one of my partners is a former rocket scientist. He's an engineer. He's very analytical. That doesn't mean that I'm not, but his whole training and his whole focus is to be able to do very advanced models. And, maybe we have synergy that way, just as an example. So really intentionally networking and then finding values that align and then understanding skill sets to see if we're all going in the same direction and if we'd make good partners.
Thank you. Did you find also that being a charismatic speaker helped you somewhat, or having PR or networking in specific groups? What would you say is the place and the way that you were able to create these amazing partnerships?
Yeah, I think it's really just being true to myself. I think, at least in the States, we're taught that we have to behave a certain way in a professional setting. And I get that. And I think to a certain extent, that's a good thing. But I'm a little quirky. I'm a little loud. I am very kind of stubborn in terms of my values, and not feeling ashamed of being different or maybe not fitting the mold. I think showing up as my authentic self and understanding not everyone's going to love me, not everyone's going to align with me, and that's okay. That doesn't mean I need to change or I'm a bad person. But getting in actual rooms with people that are interested in real estate and intentionally networking and just being myself has been really helpful. And then having an online presence, specifically on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an incredible platform, and we all have the ability to add value to each other every single day. So I've posted, I think, every day on LinkedIn for at least 2.5 years, maybe 3, just thinking of ways I can add value to people, whether it's other people that do what I do, investors, or even just people looking to figure out, hey, I hate my job. What else can I do? And it's amazing the relationships I've been able to develop in so many capacities, in many, many ways, just by doing that. And I don't know if that's a factor of being more outgoing. I'm actually a bit more reserved, if you can believe that. Had a little caffeine today, but I do think being willing to put yourself out there and just being your authentic self is a superpower. It's served me well.
Thank you. How do you think introverts can succeed in creating a property empire?
Introverts have a superpower, and I don't think in the US they're celebrated enough, because I think what they bring to the table is the ability to really take in so much and analyze. And I think I've coached some people in this space, and the introverts that I've come across, what has helped me help them is to explain the fact and shift it away from themselves and make it about the people that they're going to serve. If you're intimidated about buying the property, who is living on the property that may desperately need your management style and your heart and your caring that you're going to miss out on serving? Or if you don't post on LinkedIn because you're intimidated or maybe you want to feel quiet, you may be the only person that someone ever encounters in their whole life that talks about real estate or that talks about this opportunity. You may be that one link, and you may be robbing that knowledge or that educational opportunity from them if you're in your own head about getting out there and talking about what you're doing. So the real mindset shift comes when you don't make it about yourself, but rather how you can serve others and benefit others. I see introverts really light up and get more encouraged to put themselves out there a little bit.
Thank you. I find that in terms of building a network, one thing that's very useful that nobody talks about is your energy. And I think that the minute you start to really focus on being kind of happier or just being like in your element, you kind of tend to attract more people that kind of vibe with you. Is there any practices or routines or habits that property investors should practice in order to feel confident, courageous, bold to build a property empire?
I love that. I really think it's two things come to mind right away. And the first is, the fact that there's something great about everybody. So when you network, if you're intimidated or maybe people annoy you or you're not quite sure, but focusing your conversation on, hey, every single person is going to have something that I think is cool, that I think is valuable, that I think it is neat, and just having a conversation to find out what that is. It could be, hey, we both really like children and we think they're our future, or maybe you both like travel, or you went to the same university, or maybe you're both women and you think it's great to empower women, whatever that is. But finding that one thing that makes you excited about interacting with somebody can be really, really powerful. And then the other thing is realizing that you have something to offer everybody, whether that's in the real estate space as you build your empire, whether that's the investors that you're going to serve, whether it's the residents you're going to take care of. But again, it's that mindset shift of, even if you're brand new, you have something that somebody desperately needs and that will be so grateful for you to offer. So I think as people build their empires, keeping that in mind, that we're all gifted with something that other people are so grateful that you have and that you can contribute.
Thank you. I love also inserting an element of fun into networking. So I think that if you are able to relax so much as to be yourself, I think you can find the fun in meeting people that are like you, and also in exploring the expertise of other people who are not like you, and you can find the fun in that as well. So is there anything that you do that helps you to find the fun in building a property empire?
Oh gosh, I love that. I candidly used to be a little bit afraid that maybe it was unprofessional to have a little bit of fun. I'm not sure where I got that from. It feels kind of common, especially in a serious industry like real estate. But I think fun and success are inextricably linked. I think there are books and research that have been done that being playful and having fun activates the creative energies in our brain, makes our connections that much stronger. So yes, I think just something as simple as smiling makes people feel invited and relaxed and able to just enjoy. So whether it's, I'll give you an example. I'm really short. I'm 5'2". I don't know what that is in not imperial units, but I'm a small human being. And, I think it takes people off guard because my voice is a little bit stronger. So even self-deprecating humor and joking about the fact that I've got, fake red hair, I dye my hair, I'm short, maybe I look like a leprechaun, I don't know. But, even if we just, add some levity to who we are as people and show folks that, hey, you don't have to take yourself too seriously. I mean, I'm great at what I do. I'm professional. I deliver results, but I'm also just a person that has, that has fun and really enjoys people. So I think we can often set the tone with other people by how maybe we talk about ourselves, not be mean about ourselves, but just, just enjoy who we are and the quirks that we have that make us, different and fun.
Thank you. I really agree with what you said, because I feel that when you are yourself, when you're able to bring in a little bit of quirky humor or a little bit of fun into what you're doing, I do feel that you become a lot more charismatic, a lot more attractive for entrepreneurs. And even what you wear tends to be quite important as well. So even you can have your own style. You don't have to be in a certain way, but I feel that when you wear something that makes you feel comfortable and you're confident wearing that, then I feel that you can become a magnet for opportunities, a magnet for meeting investors at any event that you go to. And I also feel that when you wear a smile, a genuine smile, and you compliment the entrepreneurs that are there with something sincere, I also feel that you can open the door to something. So let's say you're going to a property event and you're in the elevator going upstairs or downstairs, and you're going to share the elevator with some other entrepreneurs. You can always smile a little bit or make a joke about, what an amazing jacket they have, or the glasses, or, something quirky that they have. And I find that that is a really great way to build rapport with investors that perhaps wouldn't have given you the time of day, but it's because you were the one that kind of like opened the door for them to speak to you. I think that's quite important. Would you agree there?
Oh my gosh, brilliantly said. Absolutely. Oh, I think most people too, and just to stack on what you said, I think most people are thinking about themselves. They're self-conscious. They're worried. They're not sure if they're meeting their goals. They don't know if they look weird, all of that. So getting people out of their own head and saying something friendly and being that smiley person when maybe they feel intimidated. I know at most events I go to, I'm one of the only few women, and, even another woman, smiling and just kind of giving me, a handshake or a hug or just anything can be so warm and inviting. And yeah, it just drops everyone's barriers and makes people excited to meet you. And they might not even be able to articulate why they're excited to talk to you. You just give them a feeling of warmth and openness. And yeah, you said it way better than I ever could. I agree wholeheartedly.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.